Let me zoom out. You need to mark your peg. Ideally, I like to use the 7mm jump rings, the coiled jump rings, for the smaller gauge looms. I can't find mine, so I found old grommets that I had left over from when I was making purses. So that's what I used. In a further video, I may end up switching them out for the jump rings if I find them. But the beginning of this, it was a 3x3. It was a 3x3 rib pattern, and that goes for 3.5 inches. And then we will get into the body. But first we're going to do that ribbing pattern that's 3.5 inches, which if your gauging is the same as mine, it will be roughly 35 rows. So if you want for the ribbing, I said it was a 3x3 ribbing. And what that means is you will purl 3 stitches, then knit 3 stitches. You have a choice here. I will be using the U-wrap. Well, I'll be using a flat stitch, sorry. Well, it's fast. It has a nice even look to it. And for me, I like that stitch. But you can substitute a U-wrap, a true knit stitch for this stitch, or just do the flat stitch. I do not suggest using an E-wrap stitch because due to the gauge, it'll be very holey and you're not going to be happy with the looks. So let's start with the purl stitch. I've got all my marked pegs. I will do purl stitch. So you take the yarn out from under, pull up the loop, old stitch off, new stitch on. Oh, make sure. Yarn under, pull up, old stitch off, new stitch on. I got one more to do. Yarn under, loop up, old stitch off, new stitch on. Now for the 3 flat stitches, I just hold it in front. Actually, I guess mine are more U stitches. And then you do this all the way around. You do this for 35 rows. All your marked pegs you purl. The unmarked pegs you flat stitch, U stitch, or true knit stitch. I skip the first peg of every row, and you either flat stitch or E-wrap stitch the last peg of every row. I will show you that in more detail once it gets farther along so you can see why I do that. I have my 35 rows done. After those 35 rows, I actually did 4 rows of purl stitch. My yarn was over here, so I flat stitched back to this peg, to peg 1. Then I purled back to peg 83, flat stitched back to peg 1, and then purled back to peg 83 again. You can kind of see the texture showing up. That's just to give a definite ridge between this part and the body.